want to talk to you guys about consistency and the level of importance that it is. Consistency holds an extreme value for me. Consistency is a requirement for my relationships. Consistency is a requirement for my career. Consistency is a requirement for my job. Consistency is a requirement for my individuality. I could go on, but that, as you can see, consistency, it is absolute. When we want something more than ourselves, when we crave success, when we crave more money, do you get it by wishing for it? Do you get it by sitting there, spending days, months, years, thinking about how you can do something, but you never do it? There is no reward for those that do not put in effort. If I'm hungry and no one is there to make me something, I go hungry until I get the food. Consistency, it is everywhere. It is all around us, and we see examples from it every single day. But what we do not see every single day is individuals just like you and I thinking about that. We see individuals going off, and they're going off and partying frequently. They're spending more money than what they need to. They're not being respectful to their partner. They're not being respectful to those in their life. They're taking advantage of their job, and they're using consistency for that. They're being consistent in things that will damage their lives, damage who they are. So with consistency, it can promise you a destructive path, or it can promise you a rewarding future. Now, what I mean by that is, if you look at a lot of the great inventors, a lot of the great entrepreneurs out there today, they will tell you the key is consistency. I will tell you that since I've been doing this, my key to being able to gain the wonderful audience that I am accumulating is consistency. I am posting several times a day. I am up your guys' ass about things that you already know, but you're just not focusing on. Consistency means that you are alive. Now, if that means that you are alive, what are you going to do with that life? We only know that we are alive right now. And outside of religion and outside of personal preferences, there's one thing that we all know, and that is tomorrow is never promised. I have seen it for myself, moments when someone does not have a good relationship with another person and one of the two passes away. And then the one that remains alive they live with such regret. I've seen it too many times where one person moves on in their life and the other one stays behind. And when the one person who's moved on with their life reaches a point of accomplishment and success, the person that's left behind is feeling left out, neglected, they're hurt. But in reality, the consistency is present for both. It's what you do with it that leads you into who you are. You know, I am someone who has had some amazing experiences with people. I wanted to get out and have different experiences with people. So I learned how to. I wanted to be able to do this, to be able to be talking to all of you with Isabella Tate Speaks. And here I am doing it. I've thought about it for years. For years, I would tell myself that I have something to share. I can help people. I have a story to put out there. I know that life is hard. I know. And I also know the struggle of what it takes to make it out of a life that is a mud pit to be born into. But it is with consistency into my desires that got me to where I am today. And I hold no regrets for that. It is with consistency in my boundaries and my values for myself and my life that my life is basically without drama and negativity. I wake up happy. I wake up healthy, reasonably, when I'm not having a seizure. I have a fantastic full-time job, and I'm very happy and pleased with how my passion for this career is turning out. I am meeting all of these goals. I am having all of these accomplishments because of consistency. Because I want to be consistent in success. I want to be consistent in progression. I want to be consistent in happiness. And just as I have done all these things, just as I have seen people do all of these things, I want that for you. I want you to be able to tell yourself, this is more than just a cliche. This is something. There is more to it than this. And I know that you have it in you. Human nature is designed that way, folks. It's that give and take of what you can do and what you need to try a little bit harder at. But it's also acknowledging what it is that you can't do and accepting that that's no fault of your own. And your attention and your consistency is better off focused on that which you can do and that which you are passionate about. As a kid, I grew up, even still to this day, enjoying and being fascinated by astronomy. I love the idea of space. I love the idea of planet exploration. I love it all. So as a kid, of course, my mentality is, I'm going to be an astronaut. My parents, being the very naive and dysfunctional people that they were, said, yeah, you can do it. And then as I grew up, of course, the attention was not there to help me reach that goal. The attention was elsewhere into their drama, drugs, and dysfunction. And then the more I became of age, as the caregivers changed, there was one thing that was consistent: the drama, the dysfunction. It was too easy for them to get caught up in the pettiness and the advantages, rather than taking the accountability of, I've messed up and I'm sorry for that. And I will learn from that. And how can I offer you restitution for that? I can't take it away, and I wish that I could, but I know that I can't. So how can I be consistent in helping you feel better? And then how can I even fix this for myself? It was too easy for them to want to splurge on money rather than remaining consistent with, we're doing okay right now. We have food. We have a stable place to stay. My kids enjoy their lives. There were moments of happiness in my childhood, but the one thing that was consistent was everything that shouldn't have been. And then I get to a point in my life where I take the wheel and I am driving myself. And because of believing that there was something else but not being educated on it, I started to make the mistakes myself. I was not taking care of my relationships. I was taking advantage in moments that someone was willing to be there for me. I was becoming that which I despised at times. Internally, I knew that that wasn't okay, but it was getting me through another day. That helped me understand a little bit of possibly how my parents got to where they were. But just as I could understand how they got to where they were to some extent, I also knew where it led. It was very obvious. Their consistency in that path led to the self-destructive behaviors that carry on through their lives. It was their consistency and not wanting to change, not wanting to grow, not wanting to practice safe behaviors, except in moments when eyes were upon them, that contributed to my mother's behavior, to her physical health, and eventually her death. It, unfortunately, has led into the very chaotic, dysfunctional life that my father is still creating. And as coming from that, as being the reproduction of two individuals whose lives are very, very dangerous, it is inherently my responsibility to make sure that I don't pass that on. That when I have children one day, those kids have a life that I dreamed of having as a child. But I don't do it for me, I do it for them. I gain a lot by doing that. But I don't do it so that it's fixing something in my past. My past is my past, I can't change that. But I want to focus on who they are as an individual rather than any internal biases of who I want them to be. I want them to have a fantastic foundation with consistency into their lives so that when they grow up, the world is better for having them in it. I don't want them to contribute to a funeral cost by the age of 26. I do not want them to contribute to a funeral cost by the age of 35. And I do not want them to ever feel like it's an option to give up. To accept that something just can't happen and to leave it alone and know that that's okay. It is not an option for me to be inconsistent. Because if I partake in that, if I start practicing that, then I lose all of you. If I fail in consistency, then everything that I need you to believe, I want you to believe, and that I want you to go out and experience for yourself, if I fail in that, then I'm not just failing you, I'm failing for myself. And everything that I've done, all the sacrifices, all the discipline, all the labor I've done to get me to where I'm at today is gone. But I know that's not going to happen because of consistency. I am going to succeed just like with consistency, you can succeed. Consistency is one of our many powers that we carry every single day. What you do with that power is up to you. Are you going to be consistent and leave things the way they are? Are you going to be consistent into a downward spiral? Or are you going to be consistent into progression? Are you going to be consistent into success? Are you going to have a healthy relationship? Are you going to get that promotion at work? What are you going to use consistency for? Because I tell you, it is real. You know that it is. You have to maintain consistency with your eating in order to survive. You have to consistently breathe in order to live, right? Consistency is a metaphysical concept that we partake in every day. It is an inherited concept to all of us. None of us got to choose to live. None of us got to choose the lives that we are born into, as far as we know, right? But what you are born into does not have to be who you are. Even if you have an individual who was born into someone else's success, someone else's wealth, someone else's fortune, someone else's happiness, their happiness may not be your happiness because you are not them. You are your own person. And as parents, if you are a parent watching this, one of the best things you can do for your child is to let them be who they are, not who you want them to be. It is to care about their physical health and provide for them to excel as an individual, as your child, but not who you want them to be. Growing up, my mother did not want me playing with girly toys, as interesting as that is. She wanted me to follow the path of my brother into sports. She wanted me to be like my aunt and uncle's children, into what they would have deemed as acceptable. But she didn't stop to think of where I could go with myself if I was allowed to be myself. Or why was I feeling everything that I was feeling? And by not considering that, by not taking the time to pay attention to my skill sets and to what my internal desires are drawing me to, now, at the age of, I am now 26, I am just now getting started. Some people, professionals, would suggest that don't get started until you're 26. And in a lot of ways, I would agree with them. But just like in a lot of ways, I would also suggest that paying attention to who your child is, not who you want them to be, is one of the best things that you can do for them. Give your child a chance that you never had. All those emotions that you felt as a child, that your parents would tell you, well, no, you don't want to be like that. That's a very vague and toxic thing to say to someone. Could you imagine saying that to another adult? I could not imagine going to some random person here where I live and seeing how they're dressed, judging them for it and saying, you don't want to dress like that, do you? If I want to know why they are doing something with themselves that they are, I should ask them, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this? I want to understand it. And then, after I understand what's going on, if I need to put out there a concern, then I will ask them if that's okay, and I will share that concern. But never would I ever tell a child, you don't want to be like that. Never would I tell another adult, you don't want to be like that. Children are a very good example of consistency. When it comes to children, they are consistently growing. They are consistently wanting to learn. I read something on social media a while back, and it said, why is it when we are children, when we go into preschool, when we go into kindergarten, we go in wanting to know about our planet, and we want to know about life. But by the time we graduate, we're stressed. We're focused on careers. We're focused on trying to please people instead of pleasing ourselves. Somewhere from that day into the moment of graduation, things get lost. And I agree with that. If we cannot be human, then we can't be that which is required for life to exist. If we cannot be human and acknowledge our emotions, our internal desires, if we can't educate properly, then we will see consistency in disorganization, consistency in dysfunction. I want to see consistency in success. I want to see consistency in you for self-progression. For me, relationships, no matter the dynamic, individuality is a requirement, and it's not easy to practice. Today, my partner has this day of they're going shopping to a couple of different towns, to a couple of different, obviously, locations. But my plans, what I needed to get done today, I wanted to film. I need to take some photos. I've got business cards arriving. I've got a book that I'm working on. I've got a project that I'm working on and getting a presentation together for. I've got a lot of things to tackle today. So, individuality it's wonderful, but at the same time, it was hard because I wanted them around. I miss them. It's been a busy week where I've had to be focused on work. They've been focused on their college. And we don't get the hours upon days together. We don't get that consistency together, which is healthy. It's good. And one of the few things that my father was right about is that it will, when you're with someone and that person has to go away for an extended period of time, the time you do get to spend together will just be that much more meaningful. And he was right about that. I will give him that. And that's the thing, is that consistency, and I'm repeating myself here, but consistency is everywhere, my dear friends. But what are you going to do with it? You have every day as an opportunity to do something different, and that's acceptable. It is acceptable to change your way of life. It is acceptable to grow. It is acceptable to progress. It is acceptable to be something more than what you ever thought you could be. 3-4 years ago, I never imagined that I would actually be here to this point, having people send me messages. Hey, can I ask you for advice with this? Can I ask you how you're doing this? I never would have imagined that I would be putting myself out there publicly because I didn't have it together. And in a lot of ways, I am not going to. But in the ways that I do, I've gotten to this point because of consistency. And if that can happen for me, just think of all the things that can happen for you. If I could get down and beg each and every one of you to do something, it is to be consistent in something that is going to better you. To be consistent in a healthy relationship. To be consistent in honesty. To be consistent in acknowledging what you don't like and what doesn't feel okay to you. Regardless of rejection, regardless of societal oppression. I do not have an academic credibility in terms of psychology or sociology. I do not have an academic background in marketing. I do not have academic credibility when it comes to taking care of situations that people are asking me for advice for. But I do have the experience and I do have the knowledge. And I'm here and I'm succeeding and I'm failing, but I'm failing forward and I'm being consistent with it. It got me out of everything that I was ever a part of. It can do that for me and it can do that for you. And you need to start believing in yourself. You need to start taking yourself seriously. You need to start taking life seriously. I just lost my brother this year. I just lost him. And I'm bringing that up because his life, he deserved better than that. If I can tell anyone anything, it is that it is okay to admit where you're at and where you are not. And it is okay to change who you are. It may feel funny, it may feel cliche all inside, but I promise you, promising you, that it is okay to do, and it does come with its rewards. You deserve happiness, you deserve love, and you deserve success. But I promise, just as well, that none of that is going to happen if you don't do anything about it, and if you don't remain consistent with it. So, what are you going to do?